and to thank you for being here on a side event that is trying to discuss diverse civilizational and psychological and philosophical approaches for adapting, for meeting the Paris Agreement goals, enlarging it, and mostly to make the climate change an every person's issue. So this side event was organized by 4 different organizations from 4 different continents. And so Sikh was one of the organizers. Sikh is the Sikh Human Rights Group. He is an NGO from India, and Sikh has been successfully engaging civil society based on principles as pluralism, eco-diversity, and dignity. So it believes that civil society is influenced by a number of factors, but mostly by the belief systems. So Sikh is aiming that religions, cultures, and belief systems, they influence the way we behave, they influence the morals and the values significantly. So another organization was the Boticario Group Foundation for Nature Protection from Brazil. And the Boticario Foundation was born as an understanding that the nature's balance is essential to guarantee humanity's life. So this group is interested in getting to know and maintaining natural areas in balance, and also engaging civil society on this changing and the nature conservation for everyone quality of lives. The third organization was Common Home of Humanity. It's an NGO that is from Portugal and is pushing for an innovative idea of a new legal framework that recognizes a stable climate as a common heritage of humankind. So this organization is pushing this innovative legal idea as a structuring basis for regenerating the economy, and also for changing the way we govern the governance of planet Earth. And lastly, GILINAVO from Ghana. So Giving Life Nature Volunteer is the last NGO that was able to organize this session. So GILINAVO is a multi-purpose NGO that works in Ghana with a lot of communities, local communities based in educational programs, fight against climate change, reforestation, and so on. So it is, without further delay, it is really an honor to be here and to count with our esteemed speakers, 6 inspiring persons that will bring us their wisdom, their experiences on how to build a better world from their projects. And mainly, we want to emphasize that we are discussing different ways of approaching how we can fast transition in civil society to tackle the challenges of climate change, but mostly to make every person's issue the climate change issue. So I will start to invite also to stage Dr. Jasdev Rai. He is the director of Sikh Human Rights Group. And I would like to introduce you our speaker, Baba Gurpreet Singh. He is the deputy chairperson of Nishan e-Sikhi project, and he is also an affiliate of the Sikh Human Rights Group. He will talk in Punjabi and about the project that they are developing and that use nature to heal nature, and that they are appealing people through their own value systems. So please, Mr. Baba, the floor is yours. Thank you. If you
Thank you very much. My name is Jasdev Singh Rai from Director of Sikh Human Rights Group. Our approach and our proposal to the United Nations is that if the climate is a real crisis, then we need to move away from hegemony and talk in the terms and the concepts of different civilizations and communities. Every civilization, belief system, and people have had concepts of human relation with the environment for thousands of years. They didn't suddenly emerge in this century. And we need to leverage those to try and cope and end this crisis. I am going to introduce you to Baba Gurpreet Singh, who have a very successful project showing how taking a different approach than the language of the UNFCCC has achieved the same purposes. He will speak in Punjabi, because that is what's been more effective in Punjab, and I will translate in English.
ਸਤਿਕਾਰਯੋਗ ਜੀਓ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਅੱਜ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ COP28 ਵਿੱਚ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਕੀਮਤੀ ਅਵਸਰ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ। ਦਾਸ ਗੁਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ, ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ, ਖਡੂਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਪੰਜਾਬ, ਇੰਡੀਆ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਚੇਅਰਮੈਨ ਬਾਬਾ ਸੇਵਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਹਨ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨਾਲ ਕੁਝ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਸਾਂਝੀਆਂ ਕਰਾਂਗਾ।
Vaiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaiguru Ji Ki Fateh is a Sikh greeting, which means under the eternal greetings to everybody. And it says today we are gathered here to discuss some important issues in COP28. And this is Gurpreet Singh from Nishan Sikhi Kar Seva Khadur Sahab. That's the project, an environmental organization running under the able guidance of philanthropist Baba Seva Singh, the chairman of Nishan Sikhi.
ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਿਸ਼ਵ ਪੱਧਰ 'ਤੇ ਵੱਧ ਰਹੀ ਕਾਰਬਨ ਡਾਈਆਕਸਾਈਡ ਦੀ ਸਮੱਸਿਆ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਜੂਝ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਸੰਸਥਾਵਾਂ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਣ ਲਈ ਉਪਰਾਲੇ ਕਰ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਇਸੇ ਲੜੀ ਦੇ ਤਹਿਤ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਵੀ ਜੋ ਉਪਰਾਲੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਾਂਝ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨਾਲ ਪਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹਾਂ।
The whole world is facing a climatic crisis due to increasing carbon emissions. The different organizations of the world are dealing with the crisis through multiple approaches. Nishan Sikhi Khadur Sahib is working on different environmental projects under the following approach.
15ਵੀਂ ਸਦੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਧਰਮ ਦੀ ਨੀਂਹ ਰੱਖੀ ਅਤੇ ਸਮੁੱਚੀ ਮਾਨਵਤਾ ਨੂੰ ਬਲਹਾਰੀ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਵਸਿਆ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਪਾਠ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਇਆ, ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਧਰਤੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਜੀਵ ਜੰਤੂ, ਪਸ਼ੂ ਪੰਛੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਲੜੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਰੋਂਦਿਆਂ ਇਸ ਧਰਤੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਬਰਾਬਰ ਦਾ ਹੱਕ ਦੱਸਿਆ।
The Sikh belief system was founded by Guru Nanak Dev Ji in 15th century. He taught a common lesson to the whole of humanity. What Guru Sahib said was that the Almighty Vaheguru said, Balihari Kudrat Vasya, which means we are not custodians or masters or owners of this earth. The world is not made for us. We are just one among millions of species. We have no more right than the ant or the bee or the birds and etc. So he says he treated equally all the living creatures, animals, birds and human beings.
ਪਵਨ ਗੁਰੂ ਪਾਣੀ ਪਿਤਾ ਮਾਤਾ ਧਰਤ ਮਹੱਤ ਦਾ ਫਰਮਾਨ ਜਾਰੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਦਾ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਨਾਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਸਬੰਧ ਧਰਤੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਨਿਆਮਤਾਂ ਹਵਾ, ਪਾਣੀ ਅਤੇ ਮਿੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜਿਆ।
The concept of it's said in our daily prayers, Pavan Guru Pani Pita Mata Tart Mahat, that is the air is Guru, the water is Father, the earth is Mother. So you can see why are you violating the Father and the Mother? Okay, so the earth is Mother. It correlates with the human beings to all the blessings of this earth in the form of air, water and earth.
ਸਿੱਖੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਨਾਤਾ ਪਿਆਰ, ਸਤਿਕਾਰ ਅਤੇ ਸਹਿਜ ਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਹਰ ਜੀਵ ਜੰਤੂ ਦੀ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਕਰੇ ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਨਾਲ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰੇ।
In our belief system, the relation imbibes the virtues of love, respect and tranquility, where human beings should nurture and love every creature, not just other human beings, but every creature.
ਇਹ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਜਾਂ ਉਦਮ ਕਿਸੇ ਡਰ ਕਾਰਨ ਨਹੀਂ, ਬਾਕੀ ਮਨੁੱਖੀ ਜੀਵਨ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਖਤਮ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇਗਾ। ਸਗੋਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੁਆਰਾ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਏ ਪਾਠ, ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਿਆਰ, ਸਾਂਝ, ਮੁਹੱਬਤ, ਸਤਿਕਾਰ, ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਇਸ ਧਰਤੀ ਦੀ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਅਤੇ ਸੇਵਾ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕਾਰ ਸੇਵਾ ਖਡੂਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕਾਰਜਸ਼ੀਲ ਹੈ।
This sensitivity is not because of the fear of end of the world. This sensitivity is there all the time for our creatures, for our environment, for everything. And it's due to the preaching of our gurus that we have this inculcated sense of gratitude to the earth, gratitude to others, gratitude to animals, gratitude to the whole of life. Thus Nishan Sikhi Kar Seva Khadur Sahib is actually engaged in the preservation of Mother Earth.
ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਖਡੂਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਇਸ ਵਿਚਾਰ, ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਅਤੇ ਰਸਤੇ 'ਤੇ ਲਗਭਗ 2 ਦਹਾਕਿਆਂ 1999 ਤੋਂ ਕਾਰਜ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ।
Nishan Sikhi project has been working since 1999 on these principles.
ਇਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਸ਼ੂ ਪੰਛੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਜੀਵ ਜੰਤੂਆਂ ਦੇ ਆਵਾਸ ਅਤੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਬਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਲਈ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ 300 ਜੰਗਲ ਲਗਾਏ ਜਾ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਨ।
If anybody knows north of India, Punjab is considered as the breadbasket of India. Every inch of land is under cultivation. Trees and shrubs are all taken more or less cut down by farmers. But their project has managed to reforest the area, and they planted 300 mini forests established for developing the habitat for birds, animals and other creatures.
550 ਕਿਲੋਮੀਟਰ ਸੜਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਿਨਾਰੇ ਦਰਖਤ ਵੀ ਲਗਾਏ ਜਾ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਨ।
They have planted trees on 550 kilometers of roads.
ਜਨਤਕ ਅਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਖੁੱਲੀਆਂ ਥਾਵਾਂ ਤੇ 5000 ਬੋਰਡ, 5000 ਪਿੱਪਲ ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਵਾਤਾਵਰਣ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ੁੱਧ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਹੋਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਖਤ ਲਗਾਏ ਗਏ ਹਨ।
They have deliberately planted trees which are good at carbon sequestration. So they have planted something like 5,000 banyan trees which are famous in India, and 500 sacred fig trees which have been planted in different places to try and clean the atmosphere.
ਜੈਵਿਕ ਖੇਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਅਪਣਾ ਕੇ ਧਰਤੀ ਦੀ ਕੁੱਖ ਵਿੱਚ ਜ਼ਹਿਰ ਘੁਲਣ ਤੋਂ ਬਚਾਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪ ਵੀ ਜੈਵਿਕ ਖੇਤੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਸਾਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਪ੍ਰੇਰਿਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ।
In the run-up to try India to become self-sufficient in wheat and other food security, there was a lot of effort on intensive farming. A lot of fertilizers were used. Now fertilizers have poisoned the land in Punjab. So they have been now converting the farmers to organic farming. They source all their food in their gurdwaras. In a gurdwara, if you don't know about Sikh temples, gurdwaras, there is food available from 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning to about 9 o'clock in the evening. Anybody can go and eat there. In the Golden Temple, about 100,000 people eat every day. In their place, about all the food is more or less sourced from organic farming.
ਸੰਜਮਈ ਜੀਵਨ ਅਤੇ ਵੰਡ ਕੇ ਛਕਣ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਵਿਰਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਉਤਸ਼ਾਹਿਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ।
We implement an upliftment of the attributes of sharing and no consumption.
ਮੀਂਹ ਦੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਦੀ ਸੁਚੱਜੀ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ 15 ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਲਗਾ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ।
They have constructed about 15 rainwater harvesting projects at different complexes.
ਕਿਸਾਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਬਾਗਬਾਨੀ ਲਈ ਉਤਸ਼ਾਹਿਤ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਤਹਿਤ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ 250 ਏਕੜ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਾਗ ਲਗਾ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ।
They have put gardens and things like that in about 250 acres of land around that area in the farmers. And 250 acres of land in North India, farmers giving even an inch of land is a big sacrifice.
ਸੂਰਜੀ ਊਰਜਾ ਦੁਆਰਾ ਬਿਜਲੀ ਉਤਪਾਦਨ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ 443 ਕਿਲੋਵਾਟ ਸਮਰੱਥਾ ਵਾਲੇ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਸੋਲਰ ਪਲਾਂਟ ਲਗਾ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ।
They have a number of education institutions and they're sourcing all their energy from solar energy. They've got 443 kilowatts of solar energy plants.
ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਕਾਰਯੋਗ ਬਾਬਾ ਸੇਵਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਕਾਰ ਸੇਵਾ ਖਡੂਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਅਗਵਾਈ ਹੇਠ ਨਿਰੰਤਰ ਜਾਰੀ ਹਨ। ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਖਡੂਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦਾ ਵਾਤਾਵਰਣ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਰਪਿਤ ਇਹ ਕਾਫਲਾ ਮਾਨਵਤਾ ਨੂੰ ਇਹੀ ਸੁਨਾਹਾ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਅਤੇ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਪਾਕ ਅਤੇ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਤੇ ਸਮਝਦਾਰੀ ਅਤੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਣੇ ਫਰਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਚਾਣਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਇਸ ਧਰਤੀ ਤੇ ਕੁਦਰਤੀ ਸੰਤੁਲਨ ਨੂੰ ਸਥਾਪਿਤ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਹੈ।
All the above mentioned projects are being run efficiently under the patronage of Baba Seva Singh Ji, Kar Seva Khadur Sahib, devoted to the noble cause of environment. This caravan of Nishan Sikhi has only one message to the humanity, that the relation of man and nature is sacred. So human beings should take responsibility of maintaining the balance and preserving the environment.
ਦਾਸ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਹ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੇਗਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਿਊਮਨ ਰਾਈਟ ਗਰੁੱਪ UK ਨਾਲ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇਸ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕਾਰਜਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।
Their project and their organization have come here as a result of our organization, Sikh Human Rights Group. They are affiliated to us. So in summing up, our message to everybody is that we have three parts in the whole UNFCCC conference. Loss and damage, mitigation, adaptation. I think the processing, the messaging, the communication is missing. We cannot, if one set of messaging is not working in the world, you need to bring in other cultures and other civilizations and bring them on board. We need to move towards pluralism. And that's the only way we can get civil society involved in mitigating what we've already damaged. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for respecting the time, although a hard translation work. So it's also very inspiring to see how a project can change the lives of many in India based on gratitude, respect for others, and the way we appeal to all, being as humans in the center of many other species. So I would like to welcome as well, it is also a pleasure for us to have the representative of Her Excellency Honorable the Minister of Environment and Sustainable Development of the Republic of Guinea. So Honorable Adja Safiatou Diallo has a representative here to tell us about the experience of the Republic of Guinea and the way they are doing to reforest and to provide climate change solutions. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You can speak here or it's up to you.
Merci tout le monde. Je voudrais d'abord, avant de commencer ou de passer la parole à Monsieur le Directeur qui va présenter la situation de nos forêts, au nom de Madame la Ministre de l'Environnement et du Développement durable, Adja Safiatou Diallo, vous remercier pour cette invite et surtout cette marque de confiance que vous placez à nous, en nous invitant à cette importante rencontre d'échange.
So first, I will translate. Thank you very much for this invitation and for this very important exchange. We are very much valuing these side events.
Je voudrais, juste avant de commencer, vous présenter brièvement la Guinée. La République de Guinée est un pays d'Afrique de l'Ouest et qui dispose assez de ressources importantes, parmi lesquelles la bauxite. La Guinée est la première réserve mondiale de la bauxite.
Before starting, I would like to present you a bit about country of Republic of Guinea. Guinea is one of the most nature resource-rich countries in the globe, and especially it is the first country by the nature reserves of bauxite.
Et 99% des cours d'eau prennent leur source en Guinée. Vous comprendrez donc pour nous l'importance de cette invite et surtout que vous comprendrez la nécessité pour nous de préserver nos forêts qui sont extrêmement importantes pour nous. Oui, des cours d'eau.
99% of rivers are taking their source in Guinea, and you can now understand how important it is for the Republic of Guinea of taking care of environment and water.
Donc le souci de la préservation de notre environnement s'est traduit par l'élaboration d'un certain outil juridique, notamment le code forestier qui encadre tout le processus de gestion, d'exploitation et de conservation de nos forêts.
So we are really taking care of the preservation of environment, and it is done through the decentralized administrative unit of the forest management, forest department.
Et comme vous le savez, la Guinée a ratifié la Convention cadre des Nations Unies sur le changement climatique, la désertification, la biodiversité et les changements climatiques, bien entendu. Donc c'est pour vous dire que c'est encore une fois une opportunité pour nous d'être là et d'échanger avec vous afin que nous puissions tirer le maximum de vos expériences, mais également vous présenter la nôtre.
Republic of Guinea is one of the signatory countries, of course, of the Paris Agreement, but also of the UN Agreement on Desertification. So we are really taking very seriously the issue of preserving our nature.
Donc merci. Nous avons besoin également des partenaires techniques et financiers pour nous accompagner effectivement dans la mise en œuvre de notre plan, de notre contribution nationale déterminée, CDN, dans lequel plan nous avons pris tous les engagements en matière d'adaptation, en matière d'atténuation des effets du changement climatique. Parce que vous n'êtes pas sans savoir également que la Guinée est un pays côtier et les communautés vulnérables directes, ce sont des communautés qui vivent, n'est-ce pas, au niveau des zones côtières.
We are here to look also for funding and technical partners. So we want capacity building from international partners, but also from other partners. We shouldn't also forget about that Guinea has a very large coastline, and the communities living on the coastline are much more vulnerable of climate change.
Donc je vais donner la parole à Monsieur le Directeur qui va vous présenter la situation, n'est-ce pas, de nos forêts, ainsi que les partenaires qui nous accompagnent dans ce cadre-là. Je voudrais vous remercier encore une fois au nom de Madame la Ministre.
So now we will give the floor to the head of the forest department who will present the current issues of the forest in Guinea, and I would like to thank again for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonsoir mesdames et messieurs. Je suis lieutenant-colonel Abakar Samoura. Je suis le directeur général de l'Office guinéen des parcs nationaux et réserves de faune.
Good afternoon. I am Mr. Abdullah Samoua. I am the head of the forest department in the Republic of Guinea.
Voilà, donc pour ne pas revenir sur ce que monsieur le conseiller juridique a dit, je vais me permettre de vous faire un petit rappel sur l'historique de la foresterie guinéenne.
For not repeating what Mr. Responsible for conseil juridique, the legal advisor has already said, I would give you a brief history of the forest sector in Guinea.
Notre pays, la Guinée, à l'instar des autres pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, alors, a connu les premiers classements de ces forêts en 1944. 1944.
Republic of Guinea had its first classification of forest in 1944.
Donc, après ces années de classement, on a connu beaucoup de manquements, mais nous avons connu également assez de progrès.
During the classification period, we had lots of successes, but also lots of challenges.
Alors, parmi ces manquements, il y a eu des abus des agents forestiers qui étaient là sur la population riveraine. Les abus.
The challenges that we had, it was that there were lots of abuses in the forest classifications.
Il y avait la faiblesse également des documents juridiques de ces forêts.
There was weaknesses in the legal documents on forests.
Mais également, il y a eu des progrès.
But there was also a big success.
Alors, après la création de ces forêts classées, on s'est rendu compte que les forêts classées ont un statut qui est un peu faible.
After classifying forests, we have realized that there are some weaknesses within the system of classification of forests.
Voilà. Donc, du coup, la Guinée a initié la création des premières aires protégées.
So the Guinea has initiated the creation of the first protected areas,
notamment les parcs nationaux,
notably the national parks.
Voilà, qui ont été bâtis autour des premières forêts classées qui ont été créées.
And those national parks have been created around or in the same place of the classified forests.
Donc, de nos jours, nous avons 53 parcs nationaux.
Right now, we have 53 national parks
et 150 forêts classées.
And 150 classified forests.
Donc, pour une superficie de 96 900 km².
For an area of 87,900 square meters.
Voilà, ce qui fait une couverture de 15%. Kilomètres carrés,
square kilometers.
Ce qui fait une couverture de 15% à peu près.
Which is actually accounting for 15% of the Guinea territory.
S'agissant du thème que nous sommes en train de débattre, dans notre pays, dans le système forestier guinéen, nous avons des forêts, on a différents types de forêts.
Regarding the topic that we are discussing here, in the Guinean forestry system, we have different types of different categories, different typologies of forests.
Nous avons les forêts communautaires.
We have community forests.
Les forêts privées.
We have the private forests.
Il y a également des forêts classées.
We have also classified forests.
Et des forêts sacrées plutôt.
And then, the sacred forests, sacral forests.
Voilà. Et nous, chez nous, alors nos parents, nos ancêtres ont développé un mythe autour des forêts classées.
And this is very interesting. Our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors have developed a lot of mythology around those classified sacral forests.
Pour protéger une forêt, nos parents disaient quand vous pénétrez dans cette forêt, il y a le diable, vous allez mourir ou vous allez disparaître.
In order to protect our forest, as Esther were saying, that if you enter to this forest and you do something bad in this forest, you are going, there is a devil there, and the devil is going to make you die.
Donc du coup, ce mythe a permis vraiment de protéger certaines reliques forestières.
So this myth has really helped to protect certain forests in Guinea.
Jusqu'à nos jours, tu ne peux pas oser y pénétrer.
Until now, like people are not really penetrating and cutting trees in those forests because of the sacral value of the forest that has for the.
Ça n'a jamais été vérifié, mais ça permet vraiment de protéger les forêts de façon coutumière.
It has never been verified, let's say, scientifically, but it has been actually protecting on a customary law basis, on a non-written law basis.
Et quand vous prenez également les communautés, il y a des cultes qui se développent dans ces forêts classées.
And there are certain cults which are developing in these special sacral forests.
Notamment, par exemple, les cérémonies d'excision des femmes et autres se font, les tatouages et autres se font dans ces forêts classées.
There are certain initiation rituals which are actually happening in these sacral forests, which are very important for the community.
Et chez nous, il y a les forêts classées pour les hommes et les forêts classées pour les femmes.
And there are sacral forests for the men and for the women.
Les hommes ne peuvent pas aller là où les femmes font leur initiation, tout comme les femmes ne vont pas là où les hommes font leur initiation.
The men cannot go to the forest where women are doing their rituals, and likewise, women cannot go to places where men are doing their rituals.
Donc l'ensemble de ces lois traditionnelles maintenant est renforcé par la législation guinéenne.
So this customary law has been taken by the national legislator and made a law out of it. So now it actually has a power of a written law.
Donc aujourd'hui, avec les engagements que notre pays a pris, par exemple lors de la COP30 biodiversité à Montréal,
so now the engagement, the commitments that our country has taken in Montreal for the protection of biodiversity.
Voilà, pendant cet engagement, on s'est engagé à couvrir 30% du territoire guinéen en aires protégées terrestres et marines.
Guinea has committed itself to protect 30% of its land and marine territory,
Marin et terrestre.
And terrestrial territory.
Voilà, donc vu que avec l'urbanisation accélérée, les forêts sacrées, les forêts classées commencent à se dégrader. À cause de l'urbanisation.
Because of the urbanization, these forest territories are getting degraded.
Nous avons entamé une vaste réforme qui est celle de la récupération des forêts classées qui ne sont pas totalement dégradées en renforçant leur statut et en les érigeant en parcs nationaux.
So those forests which are in the verge of being a bit distracted by this urbanization process, the government is taking care of them by transforming their status from classified forest to national park.
Et ce renforcement de statut se matérialise par l'actualisation des limites de ces forêts classées.
So this is basically a reinforcement of a status. So national parks are of higher status, and to do that, it is reinforcing its protection level.
Aujourd'hui, avec cette refonte, nous avons initialement, je vous ai dit à l'entame, qu'on a 96 900, qui fait 15%. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes à 26,8% comme proportion de couverture du territoire.
So this has helped to increase the number of the national parks in the proportion of the whole forest and national parks.
Voilà, donc globalement, ce sont ces quelques efforts et c'est la contribution que la Guinée voulait vraiment vous partager.
So in short, these are the main things that we would like to share with you. If you have any questions, you are welcome to ask during the Q&A.
Il y a d'autres initiatives, je vous remercie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. If you want to sit here, we will have a Q&A at the end of the session. Do you want to sit here for answer any questions at the end? It's up to you. Well, you are able to come here to answer. So for a very rich country in nature as Guinea, and for giving us all the world of importance of forests in your country, and the challenges you have to protect it and to give it even more value to it. So we go from Guinea to Brazil, and we present you Miss Juliana Ribeiro. She is not here with us. She will give us a video about, she is a biologist, and she is the responsible for the nature-based solution initiative for resilient cities for Boticario Group Foundation. Before I give the floor to Miss Juliana Ribeiro, I please welcome Miss Isabella Teixeira that just arrived. You can please sit on. Thank you very much for arriving on time, because we are still presenting a Brazilian interesting case of research done in the Brazilian population. And so we can now have the video from Miss Juliana Ribeiro from the Boticario Group Foundation.
Olá, sou a Juliana Ribeiro e represento a Fundação Grupo Boticário de Proteção à Natureza, uma organização que desde 1990 apoia a conservação da biodiversidade no Brasil. Você já parou para pensar quais são os impactos diretos das mudanças climáticas na sua vida e no seu dia a dia? O que você estaria disposto a fazer para atenuar esses impactos? E você sabia que a natureza pode ser parte da solução? Essas foram algumas das perguntas que fizemos na pesquisa inédita realizada pela Fundação, em cooperação com a UNESCO no Brasil, com o apoio da ANAMA e da Aliança Bioconexão Urbana. Com os resultados dessa pesquisa, queremos mobilizar tomadores de decisão na busca de caminhos para tornar as nossas cidades mais resilientes. Estamos testemunhando a história diante dos nossos olhos. O que vemos no mundo são os impactos de uma crise sem precedentes. Há dezenas de anos, a comunidade científica vem alertando sobre os impactos catastróficos provenientes do excesso de emissões de gases de efeito estufa. Porém, não temos mais tempo a perder. Precisamos urgentemente falar sobre adaptação. Enquanto nos reunimos em grandes eventos discutindo os impactos da mudança do clima, precisamos ter sempre em mente o nosso objetivo principal. Estamos aqui para salvar vidas. O desenvolvimento resiliente ao clima, de acordo com o IPCC, é aquele que conjuga medidas de mitigação e de adaptação. Porém, ele se torna mais difícil de ser alcançado a cada pequeno aumento da temperatura média global. A pesquisa revela que os impactos já estão sendo percebidos pela população. Quase 70% dos brasileiros conhecem alguém ou já foram diretamente afetados pelas consequências das mudanças climáticas, especialmente por chuvas fortes e tempestades. Entre os afetados, 65% já tiveram alguma perda financeira, na média de mais de R$ 8.500, o que é quase 7 vezes o valor do salário mínimo no Brasil. Essa pesquisa inédita mostra que 64% dos brasileiros sentem medo quando há previsão de chuvas fortes em sua região. E não é para menos. 3 em cada 4 pessoas acreditam que a sua cidade não está preparada para as mudanças climáticas. 78% das pessoas dizem que aumentaram em suas cidades as moradias em áreas de risco para inundações ou alagamentos. 86% dos brasileiros percebem que as áreas verdes estão diminuindo em suas cidades. E a maioria das pessoas percebe maior sensação de calor justamente nessas regiões. O lado bom é que podemos reverter esse quadro. Mais de 87% das pessoas estão dispostas a mudar os seus hábitos para amenizar os impactos das mudanças climáticas. Ainda temos muito caminho a ser trilhado, mas nós podemos guiar essa transformação. Dentre os dispostos a mudar, quase 20% não sabem nem por onde começar. E já temos as respostas. A natureza precisa estar no centro das soluções, como parte da estratégia de adaptação aos impactos que já estão sendo percebidos na ponta. As soluções baseadas na natureza, ou SBN, são ações que utilizam processos e ecossistemas naturais para enfrentar os desafios mais urgentes do nosso tempo, promovendo soluções para o desenvolvimento econômico e bem-estar humano, com benefícios diretos para a biodiversidade. Quase a totalidade dos brasileiros querem ver mais soluções baseadas na natureza em suas cidades. Ruas mais arborizadas, jardins de chuva, que são espaços que ajudam na drenagem em eventos de chuva intensa, alagados construídos, que tratam efluentes por meio das zonas de raízes das plantas, áreas verdes preservadas, especialmente ao longo das margens dos corpos hídricos e encostas, e rios e lagos integrados ao ambiente urbano. Mais de 95% da população acredita que as soluções baseadas na natureza podem reduzir o impacto das mudanças climáticas. Vamos continuar financiando obras de desenvolvimento urbano, sem sombra de dúvidas, mas não podemos mais continuar financiando do mesmo jeito, canalizando córregos, desmatando, impermeabilizando toda a área natural. Vamos financiar ruas mais verdes, com jardins de chuva, sistemas de drenagem com biovaletas e jardins filtrantes associados, habitações e edificações com telhados verdes, cidades mais resilientes aos eventos climáticos extremos. Isso é possível. Precisamos financiar uma transição justa e essa transformação é baseada na natureza. 94% da população considera importante um candidato apresentar propostas relacionadas à SBN. A população está percebendo que a transformação é necessária e urgente. Vamos fazer parte da evolução para as cidades do futuro?
Thank you very much. Juliana is also watching us online, so if you want to make any question to their project, please feel free to do it at the end. And it's very impressive also to have the Portuguese language here, so the fourth language of our session. And it's very impressive to see the number of people that want to change. So communication to civil society engagement is the key message that we are running all this experience through. So I will pass to Ghana, and I will pass to Kenneth Nana Amwatan. He is a social activist and a development specialist with more than 18 years of experience with a strong belief in social, economic, environmental justice. And you are an activist by excellence, so please feel free to let us know about your experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I said, my name is Kenneth Nana Amwatan from Giving Life Environmental Movement, and we work in climate change, biodiversity. IPCC report said lifestyle also contributes to the climate change. So to change the dynamics, that means we need to build the capacity of the youth and the young people to be able to take responsibility of their environment and also be able to advocacy and influence government policy. So basically, this is what we do. We work with the farmers, we work with local communities, and we also work that we'll be able to change our lifestyle. Because if we're able to do that, we'll be able to change the environment. Because I believe the young people contribute a lot to the climate change. So Giving Life, these are the policies, these are the things that we do. We work with the government on our NDCs, we work with the government on various policies. And so basically that's what we do, building the capacity of the local community. For example, loss and damage. What is this for the local community? What is their stake? Do they know the weather when they are planting their seed? So basically these are the things that we do. We train them so that they will go to the local communities and advocate for the rights of the farmers and the local communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for bringing your experience. Then we can also enlarge the debate and discuss more projects that you can present to us. And we move to the next speaker, Paulo Magalhães from Common Home of Humanity. He is the founder and executive director of this NGO. And he is also a jurist and also received important national awards last year. So Paulo, feel free, please, to have your
Thank you so much for this invitation. I will start to talk about something that usually is not talked. That the question is the legal status of climate. That is a structural problem that is behind some problems that you are discussing here. I don't know, I think the slide is already. Yeah. Probably many people doesn't know that when the issue of climate change arrived to the United Nations, the first question was, what is the legal status of climate? It's something that is difficult to define. It's something that is intangible. It's a movement. Is a chemical. So it's not a territory. It's the main question. But the first proposal after the discussion comes from Malta in the 12th of September of 1988 and proposed to recognize climate as a common heritage of mankind. If that proposal was accepted, it means that climate system and all the stock, I will explain better, will be recognized as a common heritage, something that belongs to all mankind. So, to accept this proposal means also to accept that this planet is not only a territory, as we still consider today, from a legal point of view, this planet is only a territory divided between states, and we accept from a legal point of view that we have a functional aspect. So we have a system and we have a territory, two different concepts. But this proposal was not accepted, I will explain better. But in the Convention of Rio of 1992, we have already defined the climate system as the atmosphere, hydrosphere, and the connections, and biosphere, and their interconnections. When we are talking about the connection, we are talking about this way of working, the model operating of the system that corresponds to a stable climate. This type of quasi-stable circulation of atmosphere and oceans that result in a stable climate. This is something that is intangible, is not a territorial good, is intangible, but now we can define it. And also in the Convention of Rio, we define the reservoir, that where the CO2 and greenhouse effect gas are stored in the atmosphere, oceans, soil, and biodiversity. So we have defined the climate system, we have defined the reservoir. The question is, this is a very profound legal question from Professor Alexander Keys. How a good that belongs to no one can be subject of a legal regime? The decision after the proposal of Malta, the proposal was in September, the decision was in December 1982, was not to consider climate or climate system as a common heritage, but rather to consider the climate change as a common concern. And why? Because at this time it was impossible to define what is a stable climate, and also the question that is something that we have only in our minds is if we accept to have a common heritage inside and outside of the sovereignties, this looks that can be threatening to the sovereignty. The reality is climate is inside and outside all the sovereignties. This is the facto. The question is we do not accept, and this has a lot of consequences in the way how we approach climate change. When we consider the reservoir, we are working like this. Every year we put more or less 40 gigatons of CO2 in the atmosphere. We only remove 2. And we are only working with the flows. We are not working with the stock. We are already behind the limit of safety, and the question is the stock, the climate system, where the CO2 is stored, belongs to no one. So by belonging to no one, we have all the conditions to have a tragedy of the commons, as Garrett Arden very well explained. Usually, the tragedy of commons is the result of uncertainties surrounding its ownership. And Eleanor Rossum also explained that the relation between the flows and the stock. And the question of flows is a question of appropriation, and the stock is a question of provision. So the two facts in the same thing, all the solutions require a combined approach between the fluxes and the stock. So the solutions must address the two things. And this is our situation today, where we have excess of CO2 on the stock, on the atmosphere, oceans, and oceans. And in the neutrality scenario, we must have the stock behind the limit of security, and we can work only with the fluxes, the flows. The question is now we are already outside the limits of security, so we need to work also on the stock. It's not enough to work only with emissions and capture when we are already outside the safety, the limit of safety. So Paris Agreement mainly works with flows. The goal of Paris Agreement is to reach a peak of greenhouse emissions, to limit the peak of flows, and Rio Convention has as a goal the total concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere. So we are talking in stock, and in another one, we are talking about flows. We need not only to have one accountancy on flows, we need also to start to clean the stock that is already overshoot. And the problem of do not have this legal framework on the stock is that, for example, the new technologies that we have now, they are only working to make new emissions, to neutralize new emissions. You can continue to produce fossil industry and to increase the production of fossil fuels, because now we have the technology to remove the CO2. The question is, why don't you use not only the nature-based solution, but also technologies, because the numbers are so big that we need to clean the atmosphere? Why don't we use this to clean what is behind, to clean the stock? Because we have no legal solution to this. It's to clean in a legal vacuum. And all the reports say that we need to remove CO2 from the atmosphere to achieve the Paris Agreement goal of 1.5. And Energy Transition Commission say we need to make carbon removals in addition and not instead of rapid decarbonization efforts. But to make negative emissions is to clean the stock. And to do so, we need to recognize that the stock exists between us, that belongs to someone, is not a dump. And if we recognize that the stock, the system, the climate system belongs to all humanity, a positive impact on the climate system corresponds to a right to be compensated by others. If I make a damage on the climate system, I have the obligation to compensate all the others because this good belongs to everyone. Today belongs to no one. There is no rights. There is no duties. And we have a system of flows where we are playing with flows outside the limits of security. It's not enough. So our proposal is to recognize, is to become again, not only for the first proposal of Malta, to recognize climate as a common heritage, to use what was proposed it is on the Rio Convention of 1992, where it defines the climate system, it defines the reservoir, and the question, it was defined, but there is no a legal regime in the stock. We need one system of accounting for the flows, and we need to start to clean the atmosphere, what is behind, and to make one accounting in the stock. To only work with the flows, it only works if we are behind the safety of the limits of safety. We need to go back on this. So what we are trying to do is nothing more to apply what is the conventional theory of collective action of Eleanor Ostrom to apply to the common good. The common good is the climate system itself. So the first condition is to legally define the common good, and after, the second condition to create congruence between the rules of provision and appropriation over the common good. So how to finance these negative emissions, how to start a project, a global project to clean what is behind. This is the challenge we are proposing here. We would like to have this to be discussed in COP30 in 2025, 10 years after Paris Agreement. In the first 10 years, Paris Agreement only work with flows. What we want is between the Paris+10 and Paris+20 to start a project to clean what is behind. I think this is the big effort that we should make for the next generation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Paulo, for bringing us this idea that we live in a very dirty planet and we are only complying to bring less waste to this planet. So we are still not discussing how to clean the dirty house. So thank you for this innovative legal proposal. So I move to our last and most important speaker, Izabella Teixeira. She is the co-chair of the International Resource Panel of the United Nations Environmental Programme. She was the former Minister of Brazil from 2010 to 2016, and she was also the head of the Brazilian delegation on the Paris Agreement negotiations. So please we want to welcome Ms. Izabella Teixeira for her presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to apologize to be later, but my agenda is like COP28. It's a chaos. But I'm very happy to have the opportunity to join my friends and welcome particularly Paulo. I have to confess, we enjoy a lot to come together to provoke the world. And this is a provocation, a strategic provocation, when you go into global commons and planetary boundaries, and how indeed would you like to understand how our movement should influence the political world and political movement around the planetary crisis and the nature crisis in particular. I think that here you have really a huge opportunity to discuss things when you connect politics, economic growth, social challenges, and indeed what means global south, the north-south and west and non-western world. Okay, you have different perspectives today when you go into the global political world and the global order. It's absolutely different when you sign Paris Agreement, for example, when you approve Paris Agreement, or when you approve the climate regime in Rio 92 conference. You have a complexity in the international order. You have a crisis in multilateral systems. We need to recognize this, not because multilateral system is not important. This is very important to observe here, but because the architecture of multilateral system that was developed and approved around 70 years ago, this is not enough to deal with the global challenges that we have in this century. The second point is how we are, in this century, facing crisis and how the world's changed. If we come to the beginning of the century, and you can remember that, of course, you have September 11, but we have something very important in the world that's changed. It is China on board of WTO. If you have a chance to reread President Clinton's speech, Welcome China, okay, you can understand why we have so much difficulty today to deal with the new geopolitical order. Okay? And it's very important to observe this because the non-Western world, with China, India, and other important societies, they matter, and they are also part of civilizations in humankind history. It's very interesting how we have difficulty in our countries to understand these new dynamics of the world. And you move from 2001 to 2080, we have another crisis, another disruptive process of the economic crisis, that still today you have impacts and consequences in the international trade system. You go ahead and you have what? You have pandemics. And after this, you have war in Ukraine. And after this, you have war in Israel. Look, the last 3 decades, we are the 3rd decade of this century, we have only crisis. This is a new dimension for the geopolitical perspective. It's a new dimension because together with this, you have nature crisis, and also, particularly in the Western world, democracy crisis. So it's very interesting. How would you like, as Paulo used to say, we like to discuss things in a fragmented big picture, discussing as humankind interconnections. But nature is connected. The planet's only one. The nature, life is it's connected. And we our way to approach things, together with science, we need to reframe things and to understand how would you like to influence the new political order, how would you like to organize this, how would you like to deal with the big challenge to come together. I like too much, when you mentioned about communities and people. But if you go around the world and go into different cities or different places, we have the diversity of situations to deal with solutions that not necessarily solutions that happen in my country will happen to your country. You used to come together to discuss problems. You don't used to come together to discuss solutions. It's amazing how we come into international communities like this one to discuss problems. Global stocktake, climate finance, but let's change, let's shift the perspectives. I invite you to join me, and I have 3 solutions on the table. How to put it in practice. This is the complexity of the political world. That's why when you go to discuss power, political power, is so huge. You have some emerging economies and also developed economies that they have in this agenda political power projects. And this means the expression of the new geopolitics, where climate geopolitics is part of this equation. What is very important to come in this process is that it's not only what you have, consider the multilateral system, multilateral cooperation, and the regime, the climate regime, biodiversity regime that we know, but we need to go outside of these political rooms to build up solutions that can influence the outcomes that we need in these constituents. If you come to G20, you have 80% of the global GDP. But you have almost 8% of the global emissions. If you take a decision to have G2 outside, United States and China, the GDP of the emerging economies is bigger than G7. If you go to BRICS+, the GDP is bigger than G7 today. You have a new road coming, consider the technological relations and also economic relations, that will put pressure on the reorganization of the geopolitical world. And this means, together with the planetary crisis, that we need to reorganize the frontiers, the nature frontiers, or the planetary frontiers, as science is recommending now. But what's impressive is that something happened recently in Amazon region, and nobody recognized this. Everyone's here absolutely agree that to have deforestation, that we need to take deforestation, that we need to recognize indigenous people's rights. It's perfect. What's happened last August in Brazil, politically? You have a huge political movement that President Lula invites the other heads of states of Amazon Basin, and they discuss under international multilateral agreement, okay, the Amazon Agreement, and we discuss how we should approach the political arrangement, the new political arrangement for the region. And when you read, I recommend you Google it, Belém letter. In 3 different situations of the Belém letter, is the first time that head of states recognize the point of non-return of the forest. This is the border of planetary boundaries that the countries blocked the debate in the last 20 years. For the first time, the Global South came, the heads of states, we recognize, consider the climate emergency, consider the climate crisis, that Amazonia forest has a tipping point or no return point. Nobody in the world, nobody discussed this as an innovative perspective. I went to the European Parliament last week, and I mentioned this. They didn't know about this. So I invite people, if you want to have this to discuss, that's why I think that this proposal is so provocative. We are asking you to invite you to discuss solutions in a new context. If you're able to recognize that if you have a new way to approach things, to use new lens, to understand this is not any threat to sovereignty, we're not discussing this. We're discussing a new way to observe or to identify our problems and to go together to provide solutions. That's why global commons or frontiers, how we can understand that our action impact individually the global society. Probably humankind could come back to discuss absolutely a new expression of humanism, and this means sustainability. This is a new way to see things. It's a new way to come together. It's a new way to discuss peace, to discuss nature, to discuss democracy, to discuss development, and also to discuss political inclusiveness. This is a new way to come together with nature and make sure that nature is not only a value. Nature it's the base of life. My country is the country, I'm from Brazil. This is the most important producer of life in the planet. Check NASA data. Okay, it's a beautiful map. Brazil is so fat. I think the only condition to be fat, okay, is really good, okay, because it means biomass, energy, light, etc. And so our decision now is exactly this. Are you able to produce life or not? This is what we're discussing here. We are not only connecting nature, biodiversity, desertification, no, we are connecting life. And this is the debate that we need to provoke leaders to change the way to see things and not see as in the past. The future is here, and you need to tell new stories based on the future. So it's so fascinating how we can come together. It's so fascinating how diversity is an asset. It's so fascinating that even inequalities, consider environmental inequality, really a good asset to use innovation technologies, the emergence of the climate change age and the emergence of bio-age to build not only a better future, but today should be better than today. So it's a new way to express hope. It's a new way of humankind to come together with nature. For me, the rest one is discuss the past, and I'm so tired of the past and the present. Let's bring the future to the present, tell new stories, and I'm convinced that the new generation finally will allow us to say, finally, you took the right decision, looking for us, and now look at us and saying, okay, we can share a better present now. And this means that countries that have options, alternatives, have obligations to come with the rest of the world to make sure that we can share our alternatives. This means solidarity. Political solidarity is a way to come together. So why not? Why not we can move beyond this wall, okay, and broke it and bring a new landscape, and let's build things based on new landscape. I'm so tired, okay, to discuss all the same things, and we have an obligation to change now. So it's not change to act, let's act now. The change is the way that you approach, that you deal with things, the way that you like to move pieces, the way that I come together with you. Always, I hope so. So back to you, Paulo, and I'm back to you, madam, to say what? Let's change the world, why not? My generation, our generation, we mentioned this in the past, and you change. Let's do it again, why not? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Isabella, for this inspiring debate. I think we are just ready for the debate with your thoughts and with your connection with all the presentations that we have here. So please feel free to start thinking of some questions. I would just like to start with one before giving the floor to you. But I mean, we understand that climate change is above all a geopolitical problem. And so, as Isabella mentioned, this problem, and so we have the science, we have the knowledge, and by knowledge I mean the traditional knowledge, the social cultural knowledge. So we have the technologies on one side, and we have nature, we have the forests, we have the oceans. So we have all good things on our side, but still we are not capable of delivering the message. And so we are exactly in the right moment to recognize that we probably need a new Earth governance system. So we probably need to rethink our multilateral agreements. So my question to all of you is, since following the Sikh human rights group, human species is a very creative species, how can we bring creativity and how can we bring civil society, youth, the next generations to discuss today how to reform this multilateral system, to this new order on geopolitical terms? How can we bring all our knowledge, all our creativity to this discussion in this present debate? So I'm not sure if this is a $1 million question, but if anyone wants to answer, and I'm not sure if we can translate the question for our colleagues, but well, feel free to start answering.
If nobody, yes, I'd like to catch up your speech, Isabella, and say that the question is why it's impossible to clean what we have done. The question is, we're trying to make less emissions, but we still on the same game, on a negative sum game or a neutral sum game. And it's impossible. We have no legal framework to make negative emissions. It's incredible. The only way to create wealth is to have emission that after will be removed, but the creation of wealth, it's on the emission that is able to pay the removal. So we can grow the emissions, so we can grow also the removals, but the problem is behind. And behind belongs to no one. It's the whole. And the whole does not exist for law, for international law. And so this is really a problem of social engineer. You understand? You need to approach this in a new. There is no money in the world to clean the atmosphere, to restore ecosystems. Everyone knows that today we have a new article on Guardian saying that, and all the financial climate change reports of this year say that it will be an economical disaster, climate change. The costs will be huge, more than the cost will be more to not accomplish Paris Agreement than accomplish. So why it's impossible to have collective action? And collective action is study. And Eleanor Rosen won the Nobel Prize on Economics, saying for a collective action to be possible, first you need to define the common good, and after to create congruent rules between provision and appropriation of the common good. Paris Agreement only tried to put some rules on the appropriation. Nobody make the provision of climate stability has no value for economy. The value is on making emissions. So without changing this rule, we are in a dead game. The speech of Isabella saying to look at this in a new way, because while looking to this 30 years in the same way, we create a problem, and we are trying to solve the problem using the same tools that created. So this is the contribution.
Yeah, sure.
I try to provoke you, not only Paulo, because all the time that I meet Paulo, I have to provoke him. I like too much. But look, why it's important to have a multilateral system? Because we are dealing with global problems. This and now, as the crisis with nature is so disruptive, you have a new dimension, a global planetary dimension. It's not, I'm not discussing anymore if I go to international trade in a dispute between my country, Brazil, and India. It's this is part of the equation that we can use World Trade Organization, etc., to have the rules that you like to question, parara. We are coming in a new context of disruptive process because nobody can control nature. It's an illusion that you can come, let's control La Niña phenomenon. Would you like to do this? We know that we are coming in extreme events, considering the disruptive, the rise of temperature in the Earth, but the science cannot say what will happen. Consider these events. We can say that it will be more frequent, how the extreme events will happen, but you don't know how and how much this will influence the world. I can have a forecast, I can design, I can have a probability that La Niña will not have a heat wave. What's happening in Brazil today is impressive. What's happening in the Amazon region is impressive. No modeling was able to design this or to preview this. So we need to understand that the demand for international cooperation to solve global planetary dimension, to deal with global planetary dimensions, this requires new ways to come together, new ways to frame things. We have in China and India almost 50% of the global population. How much you go into the natural resource use to manage this. And nature provides this. So my point here is that we need to understand the dimension of global challenges, or global planetary challenges, in such a way that you can host important governance system that probably is not one, United Nations. You come with like-minded regions, blocks, etc., common interests, to make sure that you can provide solutions, that you come together. This means that geopolitical order today embrace climate geopolitics, if you like or not. Okay, but it's true. So I think that the reform, multilateral system, is very important, but we need to prepare the international institutions, not only the multilateral institutions, to come together. If you go to the international cooperation, multilateral system, you have one dynamics. If you go to international cooperation, into developed banks, regional development banks, world development banks, not part of the multilateral system, you have different dynamics. And this is international community. So the point is how we should come, what we need to reframe, what are the new architecture, institutional and political one, that could and should emerge in such a way that you can deal with the challenges, with the symmetry of the impacts that unfortunately happen considering the disruptive crisis nature. So it's very important that the debate is not to be against United Nations. It's how United Nations should come, or if only United Nations will be enough to address global crisis as it was in the past when we established this. So my feeling is that we need to have the right focus to debate international cooperation, and this goes beyond foreign policies. It's not only foreign policies. This means that we interconnect the global society, that we can access information, etc., and that we need to understand how we manage energy transition versus energy security, for example. The debate today is back, it's energy security. Tell me, if I take a decision now, let's turn off, let's cut oil, let's stop oil production. Here, this country. This is the decision. Phasing out in the next 2 years. Tell me which countries will be able to buy energy, okay, to maintain your energy mix or electric mix. Tell me which one. Probably my one based on renewable. Brazil has 92% of renewable energy. If you have water, Okay, so it's very interesting how indeed we should discuss phasing out and phasing up. Okay? And people must come together to discuss based on reality how we'll solve the problems, how indeed who will be impacted, how would you like to manage things, and this probably multilateral system will be not enough. But we need multilateral system to address the critical problems and to address the critical solutions. And how we can come with like-minded blocks, common interests, etc., that political world, economic world, technological world allow us to do the things. It's not in the polarized world, in G2 countries that will solve this. These are multipolarity challenges, and you need to understand how we should come based on peace and solidarity in our traditions to cooperate and not to go against. What is critical, my last comment, I'm a board member, I'm a member of a working group that is studying the consequences of the Ukraine war. It's impressive what's happened there. It's impressive. The destruction of nature is impressive. The conclusion is that climate change doesn't allow any more wars in the world.
Can I
Okay,
follow?
so it's this that we need to discuss, and not if you can share the political power, come to G20, and please open your eyes. Okay, the emerging economies they're not coming. We are there. We are there, and we can provide solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. And following that, I would ask Dr. Joseph, because I mean, how can we empower value systems within these multilateral reopening or rebuilding? How can you bring and empower the value systems that you shared with us in this discussion?
Well, I think one of the problems with the UN is it's very out of date. Okay? The world has moved on from 1948. The United Nations hasn't moved on from 1948. Okay? Yeah. And it's still stuck in that period, in the principles on which it was established on that period, and it doesn't know how to pluralize a bit. So at that time, there were a few Western countries who formed the system, but now, as you have said, the BRICS Plus have more financial power than many of the other rich countries. So how is that being reflected? How are those decisions being made outside the five powers? How is the UN bringing in other cultures and civilizations? Okay? We showed you today that, it's my opinion that the UNFCCC convention does not communicate to 70% of the world. It cannot find any connection with the UNFCCC convention, because it's based on one civilization. Most other civilizations do not have the same sort of principles of thinking. And so if the UN wants to be more inclusive, bring in more countries, bring in power more countries, and really deal with this, the climate issue, it needs to find a route to pluralize itself rather than universalize. It's obsessed with universalism. Your universalism may not be my universalism. Okay? And that, once the UN starts moving from that, we can really start solving not only the climate issues, many other issues. If you want to, we can speak in French.
Mr. Kenneth?
For me, we need to be fair, we need to be just. For us, you buy a carbon for $4 and you go and sell it something 30. And so the just energy transition, the just aspect of it must also be skipped up. We need not to eat on behalf of the poor. And so it's time that we need to bring all ideas to the table and find a solution to solve this one. Thank you.
Thank you. And could you follow us in French? Yeah.
The microphone.
And if someone wants to make a last question, we need to finish in 5 minutes.
So, je vais essayer juste de traduire la question. How the value systems can empower UNFCCC. Alors, comment le système de valeurs, de différents, les valeurs africaines par exemple, peuvent aider pour mettre en avance ce qu'on a signé à Paris en 2015, comment on peut en fait encourager la mise en œuvre de conventions.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Je pense que nos pays africains, notamment la Guinée, s'est inscrit au-delà des conventions signées. Nous avons des groupements tels que les APA, les APAC, les associations pour la protection communautaire, qui renforcent un peu les communautés riveraines, les propriétaires des lois coutumières, dans le cadre de la protection de nos forêts. Et cette protection de ces forêts, ça s'inscrit ici dans le cadre de la lutte contre le changement climatique et l'atténuation des choses, des gaz à effet de serre. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, nos forêts, que ce soit les forêts classées, que ce soit les aires protégées, sont considérées comme puits de carbone. Nous ne polluons pas aujourd'hui, mais on subit les conséquences des grands pollueurs. Voilà, donc du coup, on a des associations, les APAC, qui sont supportées par l'UICN et qui évoluent dans ce sens, qui renforcent, qui forment les communautés riveraines à mieux perfectionner leur système coutumier de protection des forêts.
So in the Republic of Guinea, there are special associations in French called APACs, which are allowing actually of local communities in their own neighborhood to put in place the customary laws and reinforce those laws to make sure that the environment is protected. So the local people are taking care of their local environment.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Thank you very much to all. We have 2 minutes to end. Is there any question? Do you want to make any question? If we have quick answer from all, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, I am Alfredo from Unicamp and Brazil, University of Campinas, Brazil. And just I have a quick question to address a little bit what the Minister Izabella Teixeira was saying. In 1972, Celso Furtado wrote a book called Myth and Development, and he said that the standard of living and the patterns of consumption of the average American and Western European could not be replicated globally in a global scale because the world would collapse. The problem of my question is, just as new actors, as the global South comes in, and we have China, India, and of course people with the improvement of standard of living consuming more and using more, how can we work this out? I mean, how to work social inclusiveness of the global South, and with the new actors in the global South, and the social, the climate, to deal with the climate change.
Well, thank you so much. I will take your question for the follow-up discussions of this session. We need 50 seconds to end the session.
But 1 minute.
Yeah.
It's very important to observe that this year, you have this, but next year, in February, United Nations will launch a report, a Global Resource Outlook. It's about natural resource use, okay? What connects everything is natural resource, how we use natural resource. And of course, with 10 billion people on the planet, don't have enough natural resource, okay? And this is the big challenge. It's not only the developed countries have 15 times the carbon footprint or consumption footprint. It's more than this, because we don't have stocks of natural resource to apply, to use, even efficiently, to deal with the challenges that will come by this century, consider climate change, innovation, and also bio-wage. So it's only to illustrate, if you go into artificial intelligence.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for such an amazing session, but the time for this session has come to an end.
Oh, wow.
They are very strict on
So
time.
I'm
for
sorry,
that.
but it's only to say that, one, if you use the consumption of our energy and in artificial intelligence is 10 times more than Google today. Okay? And so pay attention what's happening in the world and go to technological world.
Thank you very much for your.
Thank you.